Jesus. I am resident of Collinwood for you too. I'm joined by my buddy Alan Glent, my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to review the movie First Man, directed by Damien Chazelle, screenplay by Josh Sinner, based on First Man by James R. Hansen, produced by Godfrey, Marty Bowen, Isaac Klasner, and Damien Chazelle, the director. It stars Ryan Gosling, Claire Foy, Jason Clark, Kyle Chandler, Corey Stoll, Christopher Abbott, and
Bernie
Karen Hines.
Karen Hines.
Yeah, Karen Hines. Production companies: DreamWorks Pictures, Perfect World Pictures, Temple Hill Entertainment. Distributed by Universal Pictures. This was released back in August 29th, 2018 in Venice, October 12th, 2018 in the United States. Its budget was $7 million in gross, $59 million net. Box office $105.7 million. So yeah,
they put it out.
Whoa! Wait a minute. His box office was what?
105.7 million.
$105 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying it only made $1 million. And
You gotta excuse him. He went to Laurel Highlands.
I know. I just read it. I just read it a certain way. That's all I said. I said 105.7 million. Yeah. So it made money.
This movie came out a little less than a year in the United States. It came out a little less than a year, a bit less than a year before the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. So, yeah, expected to have more interest than a couple $1 million for sure.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that I want to talk about, first of all, with this is there a name for the hell was that? Is there a name for the style with which this movie was made? Because in its sort of cinema verite look and feel, it felt like Oppenheimer, even though it was years before Oppenheimer.
It was.
Very
I think
similar.
that there's a cinema verite influence in it. It's also a sort of an unvarnished, intimate look at the effects of these larger than life events on actual people.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a naturalism to some of it.
Yeah, that's really it's the difference between realism and naturalism. It is very naturalistic. Cutting to the son working on the piano, and the camera takes a second to find the focus.
Right.
And things like that. I'm not sure I like it.
Okay.
I like, because I like, maybe this is a personal thing. I like a glossier Hollywood sort of look.
Right. We get that with other treatments of Apollo 11 for sure.
Well, we certainly do. I'll tell you, one thing I really liked in this was its subtle commentary on, and this is a deep dive, but I think they really gave the finger to Charles Lindbergh. Because, Lindbergh was famously weird at this time politically.
He was.
And he really hated the Apollo program. He thought this was just a massive waste of money and was public about it. And so what I think the Lindbergh slap was? When he kills the fly in the capsule. Because if you go back and watch Spirit of St. Louis, a lot of the movie is spent when Lindbergh discovers a fly in the plane.
And he has a relationship with the fly. So
he does have a relationship, and he spends a lot of time wondering, is this going to add to the weight too much? And so, because I thought, well, this is straight out of Spirit of St. Louis. What are they going to do with this? And then
splat.
Yeah. That may be me making way too many connections where they weren't there. I think
there's another strand, and that is that the relationship, particularly between Armstrong and his wife, and particularly after the death of the daughter,
Mhm.
Karen, which was real, which was a very, very real,
God,
very affecting
what
event
a, what
in
a
our lives. And it was brilliantly done in this film, I think. It
Yes, it
really
was.
grabs you. But there's the whole idea that the reason they sent Armstrong to be the commander of that mission is because he was stone cold. He did not panic. He did not, his emotional range was pretty much right there. And that's it.
Yes.
But there's a drawback to that in his relationship to his wife too, and some of the things that they go through. And she is a strong person and she understands his personality type pretty well. But at the same time, there comes these points where it comes to a head. He doesn't want to talk to his sons about the fact he may not be coming back. And she pushes the issue and he finally acquiesces and does it. He comes in after almost being killed in the flying bedstead, and he immediately leaves again. He doesn't want her to see his face. He doesn't want to get involved in some big emotional, kerfluffle. He's gone, and she knows why he's gone. Something's up here.
But there's a moment in the movie. I love how it deals with Armstrong's. I don't even want to call it stoic. Just his.
It is kind of that though.
His lack of a human soul. Satan would just pass right by him. But there's a great moment where they're interviewing him, I think, for Gemini, and they say, I think it was for Gemini, and they say, you lost your daughter. You think this, how do you think that's gonna play out? He says, is there a question in this or not?
Yeah.
And they kind of fumble their way through it, and you think he's going to answer, no.
Absolutely not.
And instead, he has this great line, or he says, I imagine it would affect me in some way.
Yeah, really. Who wouldn't it affect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. I thought that was handled really well.
Also, after I think it's after the 3 astronauts are killed in Apollo 1, the accident, the fire. Yeah. He goes out in the backyard and he gets followed by one of his astronaut buddies. This may have been an earlier one. I'm not sure. It might have been one of the test pilots. But the guy starts to talk to him and he just looks at him and he says, do you think I came out here because I wanted to talk to someone? It was like, so you got the fact that there is an emotional cauldron underneath of there. He just knows how to control it.
Yeah.
He can completely control it. But yeah, I mean, Claire Foy is fantastic in this movie. She's amazing. She gets the idea of this naturalism, that every little gesture, every little flicker in the eye is going to be big in certain instances and certain scenes, and she does it as well as anybody. You can feel the wheels turning. It's not obvious. It's not super. She's not demonstrating anything. It's just there, and I think she does it better than Gosling, and Gosling does it pretty well himself, actually, in this movie. So I enjoyed it as an alternative to what you referred to as the cinematic, the sort of big.
Oh, it has a reason for its identity.
Yeah.
Well, it's always, when you're making a film about historical fact, right? It's always like movies like Titanic and movies like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, you want to have that balance, right? You want to have the accuracy. The biggest difference, I'd say, with Titanic is there's a fictional character involved. There's not, in it. Leonardo DiCaprio's character is fictional. Sure. But with that being said, here they don't have that, which is really good. I think it's smart to not have actors playing the real people. And this reminds me of The Right Stuff, right? Every bit.
I was about to say, because you're talking about Titanic.
Yeah.
And then you talk about The Right Stuff. And if Gus Grissom had Molly Brown, he could have strapped himself to her,
It's true.
and
She
he
was
wouldn't have
unsinkable.
almost drowned.
Yeah, right. I think her being unsinkable made her launchable.
But I think one of the or lunchable,
Yes, or lunchable.
one of the Mercury capsules, I think, was nicknamed the Molly Brown.
Could have been. They allowed the astronauts to nickname them up to a certain point, and then they said you can't do it anymore. I think after
After that, it was Scott Carpenter called his the Nina Hartley, and
Mitchell Brothers are bust on the side.
That's right, the Nina Hartley, and that was going too far. They had to explain a lot to kids.
It's true. Sorry, kids, you're not going to get that one. You're going to have to look it up on Google. But yeah, this does have a bit of the right stuff in it. But again, it's not quite as cinematic. It's not, the characters. Not. The characters are more sort of just in their skin rather than there's a touch of legend about the right stuff that's going on. But you see Buzz Aldrin talking to his cohorts after the death of one of these pilots, and he blurts out, the reason. Whoa, it might have been this, might have been that, and it might have been, his error, blah blah blah. And they said, "Jesus, Buzz, well, I'm only saying what you're thinking." And Armstrong turns to him and says, "Better not." It's something to that effect. Aldrin was that kind of guy. He was kind of like on the spectrum,
Yeah.
Like that. They called him, and it wasn't always a nickname of friendship. They called him Dr. Rendezvous, because that's what his thesis paper was on the astrophysics of inner space rendezvous, which of course was one of the big things that they had to master in order to do the moon mission. But they called him Dr. Rendezvous because he'd talk about it all the time. Any cocktail party, hey, how about those Mets? Well, let me talk to you about, and he'd start talking about the physics. So
he was the guy who wanted to slip Armstrong the tongue or something like that when they got back to Earth or something. He wanted something that made Neil a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, originally he wanted to be the first man on the moon.
Oh, he was very jealous, and so he angrily performed communion instead.
Yeah. Well, that was Apollo 8.
Was that Apollo 8? No,
yes,
he performed it on the moon.
Aldrin, where they did the whole thing, where they did the thing from Genesis.
Oh.
And did all that.
Yeah. No, that happened on Apollo 8.
Yeah.
But Buzz performed communion on the moon.
Oh, that's right. He did. They were they in the moon, or were they still orbiting the moon? I can't.
No, they were on the moon.
They were on the moon. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and he was the one that made the crack about taking his wife's jewelry so that she'd have bragging rights.
That's right.
Then, and in fact, I believe Armstrong was asked a question, "You taking anything with you?" at one point, and he said, "I hadn't decided yet. Maybe. What would it be? Personal."
Yeah.
And so they extrapolate that he takes that little bracelet of Karen's with him. That's not something that they ever knew, because he never admitted to taking anything like that.
Now, Buzz had to use a centrifuge when he was on the moon, because apparently low gravity transubstantiation works differently.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
And so to get the blood to
the miracle,
appear,
the miracle,
he had to use a centrifuge, and it worked.
Yes, yeah. Dr. Rendezvous performed his
Dr. Rendezvous. Rendezvous with God.
That's right.
He's not Rama anymore. Not here.
The interesting thing is, though, personality-wise, those two probably would never have been thrown together in any significant way.
It's like a bad cop movie.
Right, but they actually performed amazingly well together when it came down to it. Aldrin said at one point when they were running low on fuel, he said, I was going to say something, but I didn't want to distract him, so I just kept giving him the numbers.
Yeah.
Yep.
From a film standpoint, like how they did the ships, like when you were flying, what that reminded me of is you're talking about like footage and stuff. It reminded me of the movie Grand Prix a bit, where they had the cameras on the cars and they're driving. Have you ever seen it?
Is it with James Garner?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Never saw it.
Good movie.
Let me see it.
Yeah, what they did? They actually had a mock-up of the capsule, especially for certain scenes, and they had, instead of doing special effects and adding in green screen, they said we want the actors to see this, so they surrounded the capsule space, the outside of the capsule space, with a bunch of LED panels, and they actually broadcast real footage
That's great.
from space.
I'll tell you, especially the Gemini launch, I thought was terrifying. I think they handled that extremely well.
Yeah.
How suddenly this futuristic item just looks old and rusty.
And it's rattling like the bolts.
Yeah, it's horribly rattling.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's fire outside, and where you don't expect there to be fire. And
the design was maximum efficiency and minimum frou-frou. I mean, that was it. It was like,
God,
this will work. We're not going to make it look fancy. We need to keep the weight down anyway. So yeah, it does. It looks like an old rust bucket.
It was Soviet. It felt almost Soviet in its primitive nature.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a great thing. All the launches, to me, they really gave you the sense of the noise and the vibration.
Wow.
And it was cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, his claustrophobia also that he doesn't talk about, but it's so evident. Right. He's having to squeeze his feet together. It's almost like he's never gotten into this thing before. Right. And I'm sure it felt different.
Oh,
when
God,
you know you're going into space in this thing.
And the instrumentation you're confronted with is different than being in an airplane, even like an X-15 or something like that. It's very, very different. But the guy had such control over his anxiety of that scream that happens inside your head when you're feeling like you're being threatened, even if you're not. And of course, they were being threatened. Here, get in this cockpit. We're going to put you on the end of a fucking cable, and we're going to explode you into space.
You're into space. Did you ever see SCTV do Murder in the Cathedral? NASA's production Murder in the Cathedral, where they had Chris Kraft as the stage manager.
Oh no!
And every time they had a line, there was a beep. There was the radio beep. It was very funny.
Yeah.
You ever see the Mad TV skit Jason Takes Apollo?
No, by invoking the words Mad TV sketch, you guarantee that neither I nor America saw it, Joel. It was that Osama bin Laden hid for 3 years in the cast of Mad TV because it was the safest, most secret spot.
Right?
Mad TV was funny, man.
It had a great Bob Newhart sketch called "Stop It" that's worth looking at.
Anyway, they did a skit where Jason Voorhees boarded Apollo and started killing all the astronauts and stuff. So,
close quarters.
Yeah.
There's no room, right? How does he do it?
Here's the kicker: it was done well before Jason X ever existed.
Did he put the mask over the helmet or under the helmet?
No, he didn't wear the mask at all.
He didn't wear the mask, or he didn't wear the helmet.
He didn't wear the helmet. The helmet, sorry. But yeah, this
probably technically dead anyway. So what the heck,
When the Rat Pack went into space, Sammy kept his cigarette lit.
It's true. Bada Bing was the name of their space.
Bada Bing.
That's when they said, "Okay, enough, Frank. We're not naming
Bada Bing, Bada Boom."
Yes. Bada Boom was the Saturn V rocket.
I was about to say that was. I did a joke I can't make.
Okay.
Here's a question for you guys: Is there a planet you hope one day NASA gets to land on or explores?
Uranus.
Directly on Uranus.
Of course. And I'll be very proud when we send Homo erectuses to
Mhm.
Uranus. I often wonder, Jewel, if those what is it, paleontologists get into arguing matches with astrophysicists as to who has the funnier double entendre that even as adults they can't get over. And the astrophysicists say, "We've got Uranus." And
Yeah,
they say, "Yeah, but if you want a Homo erectus to put in it, you got to come to us."
that's
Still funny. I still giggle like a schoolgirl.
yes, the school girl that is circling Uranus, right?
Oh God, get her a hobby.
Yeah,
That's
seriously.
horrible. That poor young woman.
Um,
Ugh.
Out
So-
there with Klingons all by herself.
Jewel, are you proud of yourself? You see the filth that you've unleashed. Jewel,
no,
what achievement do you hope they'll do?
I hope that we land on a Jupiter someday. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a gas
there
giant,
is
so it'll be tricky.
I think there's eventually a surface down there somewhere.
It may be beyond the sort of gravities that anybody could survive.
Yeah. Now, Jewel, you know Uranus is a gas giant.
Yeah, either way.
Well, it's a gas.
Um,
Anyway, I don't know. It's a giant.
Well, something I'd like to hope that we accomplish one day is get beyond the 9 planets and get deep into space one day. That would be
If
something.
V'ger could do it, we can do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll take another trip to the moon within the next couple of years.
That would
I
be
love
nice.
that.
Let me tell you, having been born just, I guess we still had a few Apollo missions
In
left.
72, that was the end of it after 70.
Yeah. So having been born just as those were ending, it's profoundly hurtful to me. And I used to think about this as a kid because I could see it not coming.
Mhm.
I'm 53 and we still haven't been back there.
Right. It
Yeah.
became an issue of funding after, well, we've done it 7 times, or whatever. And it became an issue of funding after that.
Try telling that to your wife.
Seriously.
We've done it 7 times. I'm going to watch
Issue
Thunderbirds.
of funding. We've done it 7 times, and I gave you that pearl necklace. 7 times.
A lot of pearls.
That's right. So the intimacy of this movie is what I like the best, I think, because
Speaking of which,
it is very different. The relationships between the other astronauts and the reactions to the various events that happen leading up to the various missions, and then you get into the pressure cooker of the performance of these astronauts on the missions. The 2 peaks being Gemini 8 and then Apollo 11, of course, because he was directly involved in those as commander. And 8 is what a ride that one is too. I mean, after they ride the bucket of bolts up into the sky and they've got the, they have to do the rendezvous and go into that death spin. Which really happened. It really happened. And having to pull out of that before you black out and die. I mean, and they know this. They know it on the ground. 40 seconds until they black out. And
ghoulish.
yeah,
the PAO is almost ghoulish in describing
it's
that.
like we have to maintain this sort of dead zone in terms of our emotions going through this. But then again, I thought Claire Foy had a wonderful response to it when the box went off and she rushes down to the space center and rips the guy, I forget who it was, which one, Grissom or one of those guys, I can't remember which one it was, and just rips them and says, no, protocols, no, you guys are building Ball-Solid models, and you have no idea whether it's going to work or not. Don't talk to me about protocols. Turn the box back on.
If we wanted to see other great Claire Foy performances, where would we look? Because that's not a name you hear that often.
The Queen. She plays the Queen when she takes the crown up through the first 10 or 15 years of her reign.
Okay.
She's really good. She's fantastic. And she is British too, which you never be able to tell from this
Is she in
performance.
Mallrats?
God, I don't think so.
I
don't think she goes back nearly that far. She's 40, I think, actually. She's just 40.
Shannon Doherty was in Mallrats.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. But I'm Claire Forlani. That's who was in Mallrats.
There you go.
The cutting the box is very realistic, because when you look at other real life events that have happened, they don't tend to show it on camera, or like they'll pull away as quick. I'll give a great example. Sid Justice's leg injury in WCW.
Right.
Sure. I was about to mention that.
They got away real fast.
R.I.P. Sid. He just passed away here. Last month. So.
Yeah, Sid Beauty.
Do not live to be old men for the most part.
No, not most part.
No,
unfortunately not. Many have died during the active business. They don't get to retire sometimes, unfortunately. Craziness.
A ton of retired ones live down here in Florida.
Yeah.
Astronauts?
Mm-hmm. Probably that too, but I was thinking wrestlers.
Oh, you're talking about wrestlers.
But yeah, this movie had a good sense of realism to it, being based on actual events. So it does a really good job that way. Again, I'll never claim to be the biggest, who fan.
Yes,
but
Yeah, Alan Bean. Who are you talking about?
No, Ryan Gosling, that guy.
Oh, that from the time I had forgotten he existed. No. Why does Ryan Gosling haunt your dreams so, Jewel? Is it about the Notebook?
I would rather get my teeth pulled without any numbing medication.
It's fine. What?
Than to watch
him. Who in your real life does he footprint?
What's that?
Whose footprints does he step into from your real life? Because that oftentimes is why you don't like somebody.
No, he's
that you don't know. Or is it just his acting style?
When he's had this many bad performances.
Bad? What is bad? I meet you on the field.
When he's had the ones I've watched, when he's had that, it's not just the writing.
What is bad about what he does? He seems to be bland.
That's what it is. He's bland. He's fucking boring. I could fall this. I had to force myself to stay awake to watch this shit, okay? And not because it's bad, because Ryan Gosling is in it. Okay? He's that bland. You go watch Blade Runner 20, the sequel that shouldn't exist. Yeah. That is pure shit. And he's one of the reasons it is shit. The movie where he wears a scorpion jacket, that movie is pure shit. Okay,
I'm baffled by this, Joel. I mean, obviously, I can't disagree that you dislike Ryan Johnson or whoever this guy is, but
he is horrible. He's horrible to watch.
He stays out of. I'll give him this. He stays out of the way of his movies. He doesn't get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. He does stay out of the way by being completely numb and boring in front of the camera.
Yeah, Robert Ryan who is this guy? Ryan
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. Ryan the Goose, as they call him back in Jersey.
They do. Back at Rikers Island.
That's right. Because he would find geese, and he would hide them in his pocket, full grown.
They're eating the geese. They're eating the dogs.
And there's the scene where the goose's head comes out of his fly, and the guard doesn't even notice. He's seen so many weird things in that prison.
Right. It's like
you gotta love that scene, Jewel. That was in the Notebook.
The Notebook. Oh my God. The Notebook.
If I had directed it,
The Notebook. You know who redeems that movie? James Gardner redeems that movie.
Well, absolutely. You know, I'd see anything James Garner was in and have, pretty much, including most of the episodes of the old Rawhide, not Rawhide, but Maverick series. Yeah.
What's your favorite scene in this movie?
my favorite scene in this movie. Actually, doing the landing on the moon. I mean, you know, if they don't make that the most important scene in the movie,
Right.
maybe something's not working. I won't say it was my favorite scenes in the movie, but early on when it's dealing with the daughter, and there's just this portent. You just, even if you don't know, you just know.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's making notebooks and he's writing. He's trying to make scientific sense of it.
Yeah.
And there's no sense to be made because it's terminal. You know, it's just the technology at the time didn't exist to operate on her brain tumor, and you know, so they put her in this giant radiation chamber and sick and miserable and the whole night. So there's that's very emotionally grounded scene. It's very real.
Makes me very grateful for the gamma knife.
Yeah. My favorite scene in this movie is when they're do the first launch. It's really good, and they go into that tailspin. It's very, very, very good. That and the credits. So.
Didn't like that synthesizer music that from the 50s that they played all the time.
Oh yeah, the theremin that keeps showing up. I love the theremin in the movie.
Yeah, that's actually from something. It's like called Music from the Moon. It was put out in like 1947, and then they added in they added in original music to it, but it was kind of based off of it, and so yeah.
Very Esquivel.
Yeah. You're going to hit me with synthesizer music. Do you know how many John Carpenter movies I own that I can hear that on? God.
So, Joel, what are we talking about?
Everybody had used synthesizers in 80s movies.
Yeah.
Joel, what are we talking about next? Because I'm fading. I've been working very hard this week.
Let's talk. Well, I'd like to do a double feature with you guys tomorrow. Okay. Let's do both the original and remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I can do that. I just watched the first one tonight.
I can probably watch one of them tomorrow, so I'll probably watch the original.
Jackie Earle Haley gets too much heat for a character he didn't write. That's what I'll say about the remake.
I like Jackie Earle Haley in most of the stuff he does. I just think he's a really good. He doesn't limit himself in his character actor
he doesn't.
Role.
No, he doesn't. He does a good job with playing Freddy, I thought. I'll go to hell saying that. But yeah.
I even liked him in the Dark Shadows movie. So, I mean, I thought.
His Willie Loomis was a good take. It's just, a little more of him and some good development.
He was just swimming upstream.
It's the thing about a 2-hour movie, and this is the case sometimes, just not every character gets that moment where they can stand out. But when he's on screen, he does stand out. Though.
Oh, yeah.
So, But, all right, guys, is there anything you want to add before we go?
Let's go back to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, too, to sort of close on this, that they do need to go back to the moon and make an actual trip, because you have too many people going, well, the moon landing was fake. The moon landing was fake. We haven't been there since. It's time. It's well past time to go back. So links to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel, Colin Sport After Dark, is going to be in the description box. Link to Patrick McCrae's Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound is going to be in the description box. And if you like watching paint dry, watch Ryan Gosling movies. Good night.
Good night, Joel.
Good night.